What's going on, guys? We are live for this week's $1 Million Case Study, Ask Me Anything. I'm joined by my co-host, Rolando. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, Greg? How's it going, Freedom Builders?
I'm excited to talk to you again, Rolando. It's been a while since we've done one of these AMAs. I really enjoy them. If this is you guys' first time tuning in, drop your questions for us in the chat box. This week's AMA, we're going to be focusing on listing optimization and enhanced brand content because that was the topic of Tuesday's $1 Million Case Study episode. Rolando, while we wait for a few questions to pop in here, why don't you tell us, give us a little bit of an update on the jungle slider?
Yeah, so like I mentioned in this episode, I've taken off the training wheels, and that's always a bit scary, but at the same token, it's a necessity to grow the business. And sales have been steady. Our aim was to have 10 target of 10 sales a day, so that's exciting news. To the point that we actually sold out of the bamboo variant. I know someone in the chat had asked about why the bamboo wasn't showing. It's because it's out of stock. So that's a good sign always as well. But we do have some additional on their way.
Cool. Yeah, that is. It's always frustrating to run out of stock, but you're right. It's always a positive thing, right? Because that means that it is selling, which is good.
Yeah.
So why don't we hop in here? What's the first question? Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying we still have plenty of the black variant, so that's holding us over right now.
Yeah, totally. Cool. What's the first question we want to answer, Rolando?
Yeah, it looks like we have a question that was asked by both Vincent and Juan on Instagram. It said, how long does it usually take? Let's see here. My page is refreshing. It just happened to refresh as I'm reading this. Let me see. Let me get to this question once again. How long does it usually take to rank on page 1 and start making money?
Good question.
There's part 2, so we'll answer that one first.
Cool. Yeah, this is a very, let's see. You know, everyone hates the answer, it depends. That's the worst answer always. But for this one, it's a really hard question to answer because depending on the type of product you sell and how competitive it is, there's a lot of just different factors that go. I would probably say on average, it takes 2 to 4 weeks to really get a whole bunch of sales and then start to rank quite a bit better. You know, you might continue to improve your rank for a few months after that, 2, 3, 4 months after that. And then it seems like with all my products that's usually about where it starts to kind of like taper off. It seems like it's kind of rare for me to like in month 6 to like really improve my rank quite a bit past that. So that's kind of been my experience with it.
Yeah, and there is a second part to that question. It says, with better listing and picture and more value than my competition, does it help rank? And I would say absolutely, absolutely. That is a part of listing optimization, is that you want to have higher quality photos, you want to deliver more value. Your listing copy should be more robust, more keyword rich. All of that helps for you to be able to rank over your competition.
That's exactly right. All right, next question. I see one from our Amazon Competitive Edge Facebook group from Shmuel Matten, and says, how can I ask a customer to move their feedback to a product review instead? Any ideas on how to go about this? Yes, so what they're asking here is there's 2 different ways to leave feedback on Amazon. One way is with a product review, and that shows up on the listing. That's the most valuable because that's ultimately what the customers read. There's another way to leave seller feedback, and that shows up in your seller profile. Now, seller feedback was originally invented at the start of Amazon when everyone did fulfillment by merchant. And back then it was important because that's how you decided, what company you wanted to purchase from. Review on the seller feedback section, that's actually for the review of the actual seller, not the product. Would you mind just like copying and pasting that over there? So you could contact them and ask them. Some people might do it, some might not, but it's at least worth a try because good reviews are worth gold. And something I'll just add to that real quickly is that if you leave, or if there's negative seller feedback left and it's related to the product and not the seller themselves or the fulfillment. So for example, if you get bad reviews or bad seller feedback that says like it took too long for this to ship and it's FBA, Amazon will actually remove that seller feedback, but I've never really seen them do that with seller reviews.
Excellent. And I guess we'll also answer someone from YouTube, because we're getting lots of good questions from every channel. So we'll answer some questions from YouTube. I have a question here from Niket asking, what would you recommend for optimizing the listing if you don't have access to Keyword Scout, Listing Builder? I'm from India, and which is the most important step while launching the product?
What would you recommend for optimizing the listing if you don't have Keyword Scout or Listing Builder? So it's very hard to do keyword research without a keyword research tool. I mean, the old-fashioned I'm using air quotes a lot today. The old-fashioned way of doing it would probably be just naturally choose whatever keywords you believe are most relevant for your product. That's like, I guess in a perfect world, that's maybe how like Amazon thinks about it. But in reality, you want to make sure that you're targeting all these different keywords so that they're showing up and being indexed in the search results when your customers are searching for them. So I don't know if I have a great answer for you there. I mean, you can start to maybe like look at your competitors' listings and try to grab keywords out of there. But maybe a better question would just be like, is it worth it to you to just spend a little bit of money? Like you can get Keyword Scout for $40 for just like 1 month to do your keyword research. If you start thinking about the return on that, that's probably what you would end up with. But at the same time, I don't want to try to push it on you.
Yeah, another alternative would be maybe like Google AdWords using their keyword tool. I'm not sure how effective that would be in India, but that's one alternative here stateside. And also just running your PPCs, running your auto campaigns over time, you're going to be able to find those great long tail keywords that you could start adding into your listing. So it might be a longer process, but definitely you can always arrive to the same result by just using the same launch strategies that we use here in stateside.
Cool. Got a good question here that says, I'm preparing to send my first purchase order contract. First of all, congratulations, Adaptive Aero Technologies. And they used the Jungle Scout provided order contract. They said they have their contract too. Which one governs? Good question. This is what I would say about that. Like, one, it's always better just to have kind of like one contract or one purchase agreement, because then there's no miscommunications about like which ones do we follow if one kind of or if they talk about the same thing, there's things kind of overlap. It's like, which one do we follow? So that gets a little bit confusing. Something else that'll just add to this is, at the end of the day, like what's really most important, because you're probably not actually like going to go to China and hire a lawyer to enforce this purchase order agreement for a few $1,000s, right? Like, let's be honest with ourselves, like that would probably cost you more money than what the value of these goods is worth. So, you could do that. You have the choice, especially if it was a lot of money. That might not be a bad idea. But the biggest value of these purchase order contracts to me is so that we are both in the same understanding of what's expected from the factory and the terms that they expect from me. So it's just like a great way to get really clear on what the expectations are from both parties, even if you're not necessarily ever going to go like hire a lawyer and force this contract. So I just wanted to say that because I think that's really important to keep in mind when you're creating these purchase order agreements or these contracts and dealing with these factories.
Awesome. And since we also touched on enhanced brand content, we'll answer this question from Juliana. It's for brand registry. Can you have this right after the trademark is filed, or do you have to have a registration number? And yes, you would need that registration number to be able to do brand registry with Amazon. So definitely there is a little delay. Sometimes it could take 6 to 8 months to get that final trademark, but definitely you will need to wait till that processes and gets approved.
Yeah, I think when they first released the new brand registry process, I guess this was like 2 years ago now, there was a little bit of, I think, confusion whether or not you could just submit only like your application number, or it actually had to be like the trademark registration number, and it's the latter. All right. Let's see here. What's another good question? This one's from Brian from the Amazon Competitive Edge. Hello, does anyone know if it's allowed to put a QR code on the reviews? So I think it just asks them to do so with an insert. It's perfectly fine. If you start putting on that insert things like, you know, like, oh, make sure to leave us a review and we'll send you a coupon for your next order, whatever, anything like that, those are all things that are not allowed.
All right. Justin from Instagram asks, is it okay to try a product with medium to medium high competition and try to differentiate yourself?
What do you think, Rolando?
It's possible. You definitely can differentiate yourself, but you would have to start from the ground up, much like what we did with customer-driven innovation. We literally reinvented the product. So if it's just straight private label, then it becomes a little more competitive, because how can you really differentiate yourself other than maybe you might improve slightly the product on the material, so on and so forth, and the branding. But then to really differentiate yourself is going to become a little more difficult. So it's always best to pick those products with low competition if you're just getting started, because I think it's a more of an advanced tactic to be able to try to compete with those that have already have, you know, so many reviews and great reviews at that, and have been perfecting their product over time.
Good feedback. Next one is, it's my first ever product. This was from Spaceman on Instagram. Should I sell in the UK, my local market, or the bigger US market? Good question. And what I always recommend for people is sell in whatever market is the least intimidating or the easiest for you to sell in. You know, like when we think about like markets as a whole, like yes, the US market's the largest market on Amazon. However, all Amazon marketplaces all around the world, they all have enough demand on certain products or certain like items for it to be like a successful product, okay? So I just recommend that you sell in whatever marketplace is like the least intimidating for you, or like seems like the easiest for you to get in there. If there's no clear answer to that, they all seem about the same, then I'd probably just default to the US, but the rest of the marketplaces can be good as well.
Absolutely. And I have one, I'm going to pull one from YouTube, and it's Long is the name. It's my intended PL products, 3 different products are now subject to the 25% tariff. What should I do from now? What are my options? So this is obviously this is in the news right now. A lot of people are concerned and worried about this topic. I think to address this, there's nothing to really be completely alarmed about, because unfortunately, when it comes to tariffs, it is passed along directly to the consumer. So what you're going to see is price adjustments and across the board among all Amazon sellers. So a good approach is to try different price points, to split test, you know, at what price you can sell your product without, you know, it affecting your sales overall. I think that's one option that you have. You can also negotiate better terms with your vendor, with your supplier. Make sure that you reach out to them and say, hey, you can mention that these tariffs are kind of hurting your bottom line, and you don't know how much longer you could sustain this business.
Yeah, one thing I'll just add to that, Rolando, is that, you know, the other option is you could look for a factory outside of China. So, you know, with the trade war going on right now, this only affects goods in China. Sure, there are tariffs on other goods in other countries, but like generally speaking, they're all much lower or pretty much none for most other countries. So what we are seeing is more popular now, what we've seen is a lot of people are using one of Junk Scout's new features called the Supplier database, which is really cool. If you haven't seen it yet, I recommend you check it out, because it's a really powerful way to find high quality factories. And the other, you know, thing that can be really beneficial with it is you're able to find factories really easily in countries outside of China. So like we all know Alibaba.com is like 99% Chinese factories, and it works pretty well for that. But the Supplier database, it's all the factories all around the world, and you can do cool stuff like you can see what factory your competitors are using. So you can find like the top ranked product on Amazon, you can type it into the supplier database, and we actually have a way to like reverse engineer it and show you what factory they're using, which is a really cool thing to do. So I recommend checking that out.
Awesome. We touched on this in this episode, on episode 16. Jesse asks from the Facebook group, hey guys, I'm new. My question is, I'm trying to better understand what Amazon hijacking is. So if I sell a product on Amazon that is similar or the same as another seller's product and I rebrand it, does that make me a hijacker? When would it be considered hijacking? I just want to avoid being one myself.
No one wants to be called a hijacker. That term on Amazon most commonly refers to someone who is probably the most, let's see here. People on Amazon use this term for a few different things. In my opinion, what a hijacker really is it's someone who purchases your product at a deep discount, probably because you're doing a launch, and then resells it on your listing. And the reason that this is frustrating is because one, you already gave them this product at a really deep discount because you were trying to increase your sales velocity or try to help, primarily increase your sales velocity. So the reason it's frustrating is because now they're selling it on your listing, they're making some money off this, and they're essentially taking away one sale from you. At the end of the day, this actually isn't that big of a deal because it's just one sale, but it can still be frustrating for people, especially new people selling on Amazon. So that's the most common type of hijacker. I think people use the term for other things. For example, if someone's selling actually a counterfeit version of your product, so, maybe it looks really similar, but it's actually not the same product. It's not made by like you and doesn't have your brand on it. That would be another way that you kind of refer to hijackers. So that's what it is. Now, yeah, that's enough. I don't need to go into a rant on this one.
I was just gonna add to that one way to know if you're not a hijacker is if you create the listing, it's your images, your sales copy, then you know you're not a hijacker. If you're using listing to sell your product, then more than likely you're hijacking someone's listing. But then there is also what's called retail arbitrage, and it's just a listing that's actually shared by a brand name, and you can sell in that manner as well. So there's lots of components, lots of moving parts to Amazon, but if you're in private label, then definitely you would create the listing, you would upload the images, everything is yours. You own that listing to an extent.
Here's a good question. This is from YouTube, Sadiq Desai. What's the difference between A+, EBC, and brand registry? Good question. So EBC and A+ listings. So EBC is enhanced brand content. A+ is the type of enhanced listings that people who use are 1P sellers. So they either use they typically use Vendor Central, but some of them also use Vendor Express. And what this means is you're actually selling these goods to Amazon and they're selling them through their platform. Versus a 3P seller, that means you're using Seller Central and you're using Amazon as a marketplace to sell your goods through there. So EBC and A+ look very similar, few small differences, but EBC, or enhanced brand content, is what you have available to you if you're a third-party seller using Seller Central, and A+ content is what you have available to you if you use Vendor Central or Vendor Express. Now, both of these are quite different from brand registry. What brand registry is this means that you are a third-party seller on Amazon and you are registering with Amazon. So you're telling Amazon that you own that brand. So it's like, hey, I am, this is my Seller Central account. Oh, and by the way, I own this brand. This is my brand. I want to register that with you so that I can do additional.
Excellent. There's a question here coming through from YouTube, and it asks, do you suggest hiring a person from Jungle Market to help optimize your listing or learn on your own first?
Good question.
And what I would say is it all boils down to how much time do you have? Like if this is your side hustle, then it probably would benefit you best to use a freelancer from Jungle Scout Market. Because that's going to speed things up for you. However, if this is, you do have a little more time to devote to this, then definitely knowledge is power. So you try to learn as much as you can. And even then, if you do hire a freelancer, ask questions, ask as many questions as possible, learn from them because they are the expert. And that would be the way I would approach that.
Cool. We just got a really nice comment from Timo on YouTube. Hey guys, I've been following you since the last $1 million case study. By now, I've launched my first product and launching my second product this month. No question, just a big thank you from the Netherlands. Thank you very much and congratulations. That's exciting. I guess the first one must have worked out pretty well for you if you're going on to launch your second.
Fantastic.
All right. What do we got there, Rolando?
All right, let's pull up the next one. Let me pull one up from Instagram. We don't want to neglect everyone. Want a holistic approach here. Let's see. I'm finding a lot of repeats. Like the next one I see here is on the tariffs. So I'm going to see if, well, there's a good question. What are your biggest Amazon PPC pain points?
Pain points. I don't know if I really have that many PPC pain points. I think once you learn how the sponsor products platform works, it's actually relatively simple and straightforward. I think a lot of people are really kind of like really scared of it. They think it's this really daunting thing, but actually once you play around in it a little bit and learn how to use it, it's actually relatively simple. You know, as far as the question was pain points though, you know, of course, like I always wish that I was spending less money there, but still getting the same amount of sales. But hey, at the end of the day, that's business. That's just kind of the way it goes.
All right. There's another one coming from the Amazon Competitive Edge group from Chris. Asking, I'm not sure this is correct. In another FBA group, someone said that accounts are being suspended when asking for reviews with discounted products. I'm still at the research phase, but watched a jump send video recently, and it's within the terms of service for Amazon. Yes, is a question. There is a lot of misinformation online and want to check as I'm planning on using jump send when I launch. Thanks. And to tackle this, I mean, there is a lot of misinformation, unfortunately, when it comes to, as things start happening, for example, with the tariffs, people start getting worried. And in some cases, some people might have had an account suspended, but they probably in some way, shape, or form violated Amazon's terms of service. And I could say, I could speak to you as far as I just used JumpSend and I had no problems whatsoever. I provided an 80% discount to launch our product. Started off at 50%, bumped it up to 80%, and I didn't run into any issues. So I think a lot of it comes down to are you following the templated format? Are you trying to deviate a little bit from that? Then that's when you start to get into the more the dangerous territory. But if you follow our guidelines and you stick with the program, then you should be in good shape.
Yeah, that was a great answer, Rolando. I'll just add to that real quickly though, that you know, one of the frustrating things with Amazon is that they don't really provide, like when those types of things happen, they don't really provide you much like clear guidance on what it was that actually caused them to say like suspend your account or whatever it was that you saw like in that particular Facebook group. So what, you know, like Rolando said, like we just use this for our launch. You know, I'm using it all the time. I've never had any problems with it. From time to time, we do hear stories like that. But when we really dig into all of them, we usually find out that they're doing something else wrong. Like they're incentivizing them with some kind of like payment or whatever else, or saying like, oh, if you enjoyed the product, please leave a review. If you didn't, please contact us so we can help you, whatever. Like there, you know, usually once you start unpacking those, you see that there's quite a few other like layers that other areas that they've gotten into that are kind of breaking Amazon's terms of service.
There's one from Paul asking, what are the best negotiating tips you can offer whilst dealing with numerous suppliers? And what I've found that's been very effective for this is just kind of pin them up against each other. I mean, that is the best negotiating tactic. While one is offering you this price and this other's offering you a higher price, you can just say, hey, you know, this supplier is offering it at a much lower price for, you know, this quantity. So yeah, just pin them up against each other, and you're going to find that works like magic.
Here's a good question. hey, let's see, my listing got hijacked and I'm still paying for PPC. I called seller support, they can't do anything. So actually when you pay for PPC, even if there's other people on your listing selling the same product, when they click through your PPC, you're the one that's shown as like having the buy box. So, you know, if we think about like how Amazon started before there was all these own brands and private labelers or whatever else, there was on each listing, there was like quite a few people selling on the listing. So, you know, we were all selling the same Sony camera and, you know, there'd be like 10 different sellers. Well, those sellers could still use PPC. And when someone clicked through and landed on the listing, they were the one that controlled the buy box. And like 99 point something percent of sales happen by clicking on the call to action in the buy box, because most general consumers on Amazon don't know that there is that you can like go in and look at other sellers and purchase from one of those. That's just typically not how Amazon works. So I wouldn't worry about it is what it comes down to.
All right, and the next question comes from Shmuel. Shmuel, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm probably murdering it, but it asks. They're asking, how much do you guys spend daily on PPC when barely launching an item to rank? My minimum threshold is 30% because that's actually what Amazon recommends. Now, the beauty of it is more than likely I'm not going to spend that. More than likely I won't max out, but at a minimum, I want to take Amazon's guidance when it's recommending, even when I'm doing my manual campaigns and it has bid suggestions. I just take, of course, they have all this data, they have all this information. Why not utilize it to your advantage? And so that's why, as I say, I take the same approach when it comes to starting out a campaign. And over time, you're going to adjust it, either raise it or lower it according based on the what the results are kind of telling you.
Cool. David said, do you listen to Scott Volker's podcast? Yeah, Scott Volker's a friend of mine. I like his podcast.
I do too.
We got another one here from Nicole C that says, there's room for 9 photos on a listing, but only 7 show up on the main product page. Is there any benefit to adding 9 photos instead of 7? Does Amazon prefer more? Blah, I can't talk today. I prefer to show or to upload all 9 if you have them. Now, do most people see all 9? No, probably not. But most of the time there's a little like see more button, and then you can enlarge that and see all 9 of them and click through them. And me as an Amazon shopper, I personally do that sometimes. I think other shoppers do as well. The other thing you have to take into account is there's actually a lot of different displays of Amazon depending on what device you're on. So pull up your listing on your cell phone and on your tablet and on a different tablet that's a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, and you'll see there's different displays. And sometimes there actually are all 9 of those shown, like in some of the carousels that you scroll through. So if you have 9, it certainly doesn't hurt to upload them. Does that really improve conversion rate that much more than like just 7 photos? Something. But I've always thought about if I got them, I might as well just upload them.
Because what happens is as you're using a video, that also takes one of the thumbnails off on that left margin. So now now you have 6 images and one video image thumbnail. Those 2 remaining pictures, they're going to be more like a descriptive of like maybe what's in the package. They're not designed so much for conversion. They're more designed for explaining, going beyond what your selling points are. You definitely want your first 6 images to be, and 7 if you don't have a video, your first 7 videos to be that story that we talked about. You want to be able to tell that story from beginning to end, touch on those main key features of your product.
We got another good one here. This is from Gerard. Said, if you're listing an item like garbage bags, how do you improve upon the product and make the listing sexy? Love $1 million case study, by the way. You guys did a super great job with Jungle Snuggles. You know, I think you always have to be asking yourself, like, what do customers want with this product? What do they want to see improved? And those are the types of things you should be thinking about improving with your product or making it sexy or different color, or, you know, there's different things like that. But what I would do is I would read the bad reviews from your competitors, see what people are complaining about, because that way you know exactly what customers care about and what they don't, and focus on that for your improvements.
Definitely, and that kind of adds to what we were talking about previously, is that your images say, you know, like they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? And if you are registered with enhanced, and you have enhanced brand content, then definitely a video comes in handy. Being able to just kind of outdo the competition when it comes to like visually, how appealing can you make it? It brings the sexy back when you focus on your images.
Here's a question from MVB Dynamics. How often and when do you consider using a VA for helping on the listing maintenance and optimization? How big of a seller should you be before you need external help? We get this question quite a bit, and I guess everyone's kind of like excited or anxious about like building out a team and hiring people and stuff, but like the way I think about it is, when do you need the help? Like, would this person help your business grow? Could you get a positive ROI on hiring them? Or do you not have enough time to devote to your business of what it requires? Or could they take some tasks from you that you don't enjoy doing or are low value tasks, and instead use your time for more high value items? So those are the types of things that I'd be asking myself. I don't think there is a right answer as far as like how big do you have to be before you hire someone to help you. So yeah, that's what I recommend.
All right. I have a question here from The Flex on YouTube. And the question is, we're launching our first product and Amazon contacted us and assigned us a person to help walk us through the entire launch. They recommended to use coupons to help rank. Should we still do giveaways? In our launch strategy, we touch on this, and we definitely, we still recommend doing giveaways. They still work. They're still very effective, but it's kind of you want to use everything in your arsenal to be able to launch your product. So you want to do Amazon coupons. You want to do jump send giveaways. You also want to use the early reviewer program. That's been phenomenal for us in terms of getting reviews. In fact, we've already maxed out. You're allowed 5, and we've already received our 5 verified purchases through Amazon for the early reviewer program. So you want to use everything that you have at your disposal, including PPC, for your launch.
Michelle Talley on YouTube asks, how can you tell if a product is prone to hijackers? How worried should we be about hijackers, or what indicators are there that show red flags for hijackers or products? You shouldn't be very worried about hijackers. It's not that big of a deal. It sounds like this scary thing. All it is like someone sells 1 or 2 products on your listing. Typically, they take away 1 or 2 sales and you just go back to business as normal. It's not that big of a deal, right? Maybe one that's a little bit bigger deal is when they sell a counterfeit item on your listing. So instead of like just purchasing 1 or 2 from like your giveaways and reselling it on your listing, instead they're selling a product that looks just like yours on your listing, but that's counterfeit. And Amazon's actually very strict about that. And actually, if you order one of their products and send it into Amazon, or take pictures and send those into Amazon telling them that they're counterfeit, Amazon takes that very seriously and usually bans or suspends that person's account even on the first offense. So does that happen from time to time? Yeah, you'll always hear stories about it. Is it that big of a deal? No, not really. So I wouldn't be that worried about this.
All right, this is a question for you, Greg. AC is asking, I just received an email from you guys that says that you guys are merging Jungle Scout and Jump Send. I'm a Jump Send user. Does that mean now we have to pay more to use Jump Send?
Good question. Yes, we're very excited that next week we're migrating all the Jump Send functionality right into Jungle Scout. What we found is a lot of our customers were were subscribing to both of them, and we wanted to create a package where you could access all this inside of one dashboard and didn't have to pay as much. So to answer your question, does that mean I now have to pay more to use Jump Send? You'll be grandfathered in at whatever price you're at for a certain period. If I remember right, I think that's like 6 months. Only if it's cheaper. For some people, the new plans will actually be cheaper. So for some of you guys watching this, if you're Jump Send customers right now, by migrating over, you'll actually have a cheaper plan. And you also get all the Jungle Scout functionality like Keyword Scout and the product database and the supplier database and all this. So it's way more value for your money. And for the percentage of people who get grandfathered in at a cheaper plan, you still get that for I forget exactly, but it's a half a year or something. It's a long time, maybe 3/4 a year. I don't know. It's a long time. So I wouldn't worry about it. And you'll see by then that there's going to be tons and tons of new functionality that's really exciting in there. So it's going to be good stuff. We're stoked.
Yeah, I'm super stoked about what we're doing here. So it's something to get excited about. Definitely get excited about it. You kind of we let the cat out of the bag right now, but it's a great question.
Yeah. I got another one that says this from Joel. Do you typically wait until you see a certain level of movement or sales before you invest additional money into the professional photos or copyright? No. The way I usually operate is like I'm all in on this. Like I did my research, I understand what I'm looking for in this product. So I usually go all in. I go ahead and get nice photos because those help it sell well, you know. So like otherwise, some people I think can get stuck in a little bit of a trap. Like, oh, I don't want to do too much of a launch, and I don't want nice photos, and I don't want to do this. I first want to see if it sells well. And it's like, well, it doesn't really sell well until you do a lot of that stuff. So that's what I typically do. I do know that some people actually do hold off on photos because that is, you know, I would, if your options are either to like hold back on your launch or hold back on your photos, I would definitely choose to hold back on my photos and make sure to go all in on the launch. But yeah, that's just the way I think about it. MVP said, when can I plan a visit to your headquarters? I would love to know you guys. We're actually moving. The reason that I have a little bit of a different background this week is we're actually moving offices right now. We're moving into a new place next week in East Austin. So if you're around, shoot us a message and we'll get you to swing by and say hi, and it'd be fun. We always love meeting our customers.
All right, awesome. Let's see here. We've got Sadiq. Are you planning to launch a lifetime value for the Chrome web version, Jungle Scout Chrome web version? Launch a lifetime value for that.
Short answer, no. I'm not sure if you're talking about the Chrome extension or the web app, but what we found is no, that we don't think lifetime subscriptions are really like they're a little bit of like an old school type thing, you know, like when you bought like your Windows PC and you got Windows 98 and like you bought this lifetime subscription. But that's not really how like kind of software works anymore with the internet age, because like we're updating this like every few days and like ongoing support, and it's being hosted like on our servers and using that there. So it seems like it just doesn't make the most sense. You know, we thought about from time to time, like, would people want like a lifetime subscription but then no updates? And it's like, not really. You know, like people always want like the updated and latest and greatest, and we're always making so many improvements that just seemed to make the most sense.
Awesome. And Brian asks, he says, hey, my first product is due to land in the UK next Wednesday. Awesome. Congratulations, Brian. I know my main keyword. How do you best understand your next best keywords? We touched on this a little earlier. I think that one way is definitely through your PPC campaigns, through an automatic campaign. You definitely want to run that right from the start. That will start to generate some more keywords for you, some more relevant keywords. But definitely in the early stages, it's a matter of kind of just seeing what sticks. It's about split testing, trying out different keywords, seeing which one ranks you best. I don't know. What would you add to that, Greg?
No, I think that's great. Yeah.
All right.
The next question is from Zoltan. Do you see any fancy and selling stuffs on European sites like Amazon.es and .it, etc.? Is it worth a try to start selling there? Yes. If those are marketplaces that you're familiar with, like for example, if you speak Spanish or you speak Italian or you live in those countries and it seems easy for you to sell in those marketplaces, then yes, I would encourage you to do so. There's lots of demand on those marketplaces. It's a good place to sell. So I'd say go for it. So let's see here. Looks like we have time for about 1 or 2 more questions, Rolando. So pick them carefully.
All right. We've got Ari Say asking, will Jungle Scout come up with a contract template when dealing with suppliers? If you go back to episode 6, which is the episode that ties in supplier outreach and evaluating samples. And then episode 5, finding Chinese suppliers. We have several templates that are available for you. One is a purchase order contract. So it makes it super easy to be able to negotiate with suppliers. That being said, there's always room for improvement, and there are a lot of things that are in the pipeline that you have to look forward to as a Jungle Scout customer. So
Wink,
I can't say
wink.
much more.